Hey there. Just got back from a morning walk with the dog. It's still early. Well, it's late morning. Um, Two Guys Talking. Where did it go? What are you doing? Why haven't you done a podcast in 6, 8, 10 months, whatever it happens to be? I think we started this podcast about a year ago, maybe a little over. And we were on a roll. I got Megan on as a co-host. Little plug for her. Her HGTV, I think it was the network. House Hunters episode was on last night at 10 p.m. Pacific. I'm sure you can find that anywhere. It's the story of how she and her husband, Paul, bought a motel in Northern California. But I won't spoil it for you. It was fun. It's fun to watch. I've been there a few times. It's a great place, and they're doing a lot of great improvements to it. So best of luck to them. Hopefully she'll be on the show again at some point, either as a host or as a guest. But anyway, I wanted to tell you a little bit about why the show went away. Kind of everything always has like a spark, or a trigger, or an event that causes something to happen or not happen. And quite frankly, mine was Megan kind of went AWOL when she was looking for the motel, and I just kind of lost interest. But that's not the real reason I stopped. The real reason I stopped is about a year ago, not quite a year ago, but summer of 2023, um, I had another round of AFib, which look it up. I'm not going to explain it. It's basically a irregular heart rhythm that makes you really freaking tired. For the first 4 to 6 months, it didn't really affect me. I could feel it. It bummed me out. It bothered me, but it didn't really affect me. Um, However, it got worse and worse and worse to the point where going upstairs was a pain in the butt. And I was trying to schedule people on the podcast, and there were willing people to be on, come on as guests, willing, ready, and able, and eager. And I had to blow them off because health issues got in the way. So I think it was March, I had what they call a cardio version, which before the cardio version, you have to take what they call blood thinners. They're not really blood thinners per se. They're anticoagulants because with AFib, you have a slightly increased, well, it's a greatly increased, although it's still a minor risk of blood clots. They could be in your legs. Mostly they're in your heart. And if they're in your heart, depending on how things go, they could go to your head or to your heart. And either way is bad, like really bad. Um, so all that said, I had a cardio version. They basically put an electrical pad, yeah, sweaty, electrical pad on the front and on the back, and they shock you. And for me, I've had it done. Up to that point, I had it done once. And anyway, everything was fine. One shock. It takes about 10 minutes. You go under, they do it, you come out, you go home. That's it. Well, at that point, I had already discussed with my cardiologist, and I hate saying that I actually have a cardiologist, because my heart is fine. It's actually fine. I can hike with anybody. I don't run because I have really bad joints and stuff, but I could weightlift, I could go on the treadmill, I can do whatever. It doesn't really stop me. And I've had stress tests and everything's fine. So everything's fine. But I had scheduled with my cardiologist that we're going to do this thing called a cardio ablation, which is, you can look that up too. But essentially what's happening with AFib is your heart's getting the wrong electrical signals sent to it. And the atria, which are the two smaller upper chambers of your heart, go, I don't know what the hell to do, so I'm just going to tell the heart to beat faster. And they kind of flutter. And you don't really have a pulse per se. You have so at time, and your rhythm could be like that. So kind of weird. But we had that done. And again, that's outpatient. You go in. Now, it took a lot longer, but you go in under sedation. They do their thing. The procedure takes a while. They actually go up through your hip area with little tiny catheters and do their thing with a camera and all that kind of stuff. And it was a success. Everything was fine. Came out of it fine. Went home. Felt like $1,000,000, just like I had with other procedures. But they say it takes about 3 months to heal. And in that 3-month period, you can actually go back into AFib. And the whole idea about a cardioablation is that it reduces the risk or chance of you ever getting AFib again. And it's about 85 to 90% effective in treating AFib. But within that 3-month period, your chances of getting AFib are like 40%. Guess what? I got it about a month later. So I was still within that 90-day window. Went in and had another cardioversion. So the last 4 to 5 months, especially, have been hell in terms of just having to plan around all this stuff. And it's just been too hard. But I want to make that stop. I want to rekindle Two Guys Talking. Sometimes it may be one guy talking, but I'm going to just talk about shit that matters to me. And hopefully it matters to you, because I'm just like you. For ordinary people. I don't live in a mansion. I'm not a venture capitalist. I'm not on the street. I'm in the broad middle, just like you, and probably. And hopefully we all suffer the same trials and tribulations and challenges, and we all want the same thing for our lives, which is to be happy and healthy, and make sure that our family is happy and healthy and well taken care of, and that our kids grow up happy and healthy and can do whatever they want to do in their life. Okay. So all that said, let's shift to what I'll call segment 2. So segment 1 was Bill's update, health, why Two Guys Talking has been on hiatus for such a long time. All right. Now, I'm going to get into something that's probably controversial. Well, is controversial. And that roughly 40 to 50% of the people who watch this may hate it. All right. Let's talk about it. The 2024 presidential election. I think it's safe to say at this point that it's a two-party race, Republicans and Democrats. We know who the Republican nominee is. It's Donald Trump, former president. And he has a vice presidential nominee whose name is J.D. Vance. Get into that in a minute. On the other side, in normal times, we would have President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris running against, as incumbents, running against Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. Well, a few weeks ago, and I think it was the Biden campaign's idea, hey, we should have a debate with Donald Trump with no audience, cut the mics when it's not your turn, because Trump has, well, all presidential candidates, all political candidates have a way of talking over their opponent when it's their opponent's turn, but Trump is especially bad. I mean, we can agree with that. There are reasons why he's bad, not all of them good. But those were kind of the ground rules. And I think there were 2 moderators. I did not watch most of it. I didn't even watch it from the beginning. I didn't watch it live because, to be honest with you, I knew how this was going to turn out, although I didn't know it was going to turn out nearly half as bad for Biden. All right. I got to get that screen thing fixed, because every time I move my hand, the camera moves me. But it might make you sick, so let's just keep doing it. Oh yeah, there's that sweat again. There you go. Anyway, so they had this debate, and apparently for the first, I don't know, half an hour, Joe Biden looked like he was comatose. He looked like Weekend at Bernie's. Nothing good could be said for that part of the debate. I don't want to get into well, if you think that's bad, how bad was Trump? I'm just going to say this. Trump was Trump. He did the Trump things. He lied. He didn't answer the questions. But he did it with power, he did it with energy, and he did it with gusto. So if that's what you want in a president, vote for him. All right? Joe Biden was terrible. And as I said before, I knew how this was going to turn out. Trump was going to lie, Trump wasn't going to answer questions, and Trump was going to be bombastic and go off topic. Okay? We all know that. We also knew, or at least I did, that Joe Biden was going to stutter. He was going to pause for long periods of time. He was going to look off into the distance looking like he wasn't there because that's what he does. He's going to call people the wrong names because that's what he does. He's been doing that for decades. He's been stuttering for a long time. He was not my choice in 2020. He wasn't my choice now, except that I didn't really get a choice. The incumbent almost always wins. And I think the last time an incumbent president was actually really challenged in a debate, that side lost. And I think that may have been, I don't remember, to be honest with you. I read somewhere it was about 40 years ago. So do the math. That was the 80s. So who could that have been? Reagan, Bush. Before that, Carter, Ford. I don't know. But suffice it to say, it doesn't happen very often. And when it did, it didn't go well for the incumbent party. I think it was actually Carter. But Carter had a lot of other things going on, macro-wise, that weren't going his way. And that was unfortunate because he turned out to be a wonderful humanitarian. But humanitarians and U.S. presidents, they've never really been the same person, right? You got to do bad shit when you're a U.S. president, including killing people. I don't know why anybody would want that job, but I do. But we'll go into that maybe in another episode. Suffice it to say, my prediction was right, but I had no idea Biden was going to do as poorly as he did. I went back and watched some of it. And I will say that as the night wore on, Biden got better. But it was not a good performance, and it scared the shit out of people. Okay? Fast forward a week or two, or maybe a day or two, and there's been a growing clamor for Biden to step down. Now, I don't know what that means. Does that mean not run in 2024 and give it to Harris? Does that mean they both leave and give it to somebody else? Does that mean they go into the convention and figure out who it's going to be? Do another vote? Does that mean Joe Biden should resign right now? Because, if he was too old at that debate to win the presidency in 4 months, he may be too old to be president. Now, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying if you think he's too old to run in 2024 November, you probably think he's too old to be president right now. I didn't make that situation. You didn't make that situation. We should have talked about this a year ago. Now, in 2020, between 2020 and 2022, I could have sworn Biden either said outright or implied that he was a transitional president. He said those words. But the implication, stupidly, I thought that meant I'm going to be a one-term president and Harris is going to be running in 2024, which I'm fine with because she, quite honestly, in 2020 was my first choice. I have not been happy with her performance as vice president, but I don't think it's her fault. I think it's the Biden campaign's fault or the Biden administration's fault for not. Democrats aren't good at blowing their own horns, man. They're just not. They never have been. They probably never will be. Trump doesn't need anybody to toot his own horn because he just does it all day long. He toots his own horn just as much as he farts in court, just as much as he falls asleep at conventions like he did last week. Oh, he didn't fall asleep. He was praying. Yeah. You believe that guy's religious? Think again. doubt he's ever gone to church, but whatever. I don't care because I don't go to church either. I'm not running for president, and I'm not telling people I'm religious. So if you want to vote for me, an agnostic or atheist or whatever you want to call me, heathen, fine, but I'm not lying to you. Okay. All that said, we have a crisis in one of our parties, and amazingly, it's not in the Republican Party. You would think that a guy who's been convicted of crimes, who's been adjudicated as at the very least, a sexual offender, some say rape. I would call it rape, but I wasn't there and I'm not a witness and the jury didn't say it was, so it's not. He's also, defrauded people. One would think that guy and his party would be the one under like extreme duress right now. But they're acting like they're going to win. They're acting like they've already won. Project 2025. We'll get into that in a minute. I don't want to talk too much about it. If you care, comment, and I'll share all the resources I have about it with you. The Democrats are the ones in duress. And you have mumblings of higher ups in the Democratic Party who are saying Biden should step down. Again, I don't know what that means. I think what they mean by that is just don't run. Let's nominate somebody else. And it could be Harris. It could be a number of people. And that's fine, I guess. I think it's too late for that. I mean, mail-in ballots and early voting, I believe, start in September. We're roughly a month and a half away from that. There are going to be legal challenges aplenty. You can bet that the most litigious person in our country is going to have his teams of lawyers litigate the fuck out of this and say that, oh, now that Biden's off the ballot, you can't put anybody else on because it's too late. And now you're going to have a landslide. It's a manufactured landslide because there was no Democrat on the ballot. You see where this is going? They're not going to have time to get this through the courts. And let's just say that they do. Do you really trust? I'm looking at you now. Do you really trust that the Supreme Court is going to rule in favor of the left? They're not. We'll just put it out there right now. They're not. So we have a timing problem more than we have anything else. And you could say, a year ago or 2 years ago, let's figure out who the nominee is going to be and let's groom that person for the position them for the position. And it didn't happen. So here we are. And what do? I, for one, believe that Trump is a threat to democracy. You don't need to give me any more evidence than January 6th. But there's a whole bunch out there. So if that's the kind of presidency you want, you get to vote for him. Good for you. I hope you are okay with your choice 2 years from now, because it may not turn out well for you. He doesn't have any allegiance to you. He actually probably kind of hates you because you're poor, or you're not rich like him, or you're not well-to-do, you're not in the upper class. But you could delude yourself. That's fine. Let's talk about 2025, just briefly, because again, you can comment, you can hit me up. Most of you are my friends. So ask me. I'm on Facebook. I'm pretty damn honest with my feelings on this kind of stuff. And I've put a lot of resources out there. Let's just say that Project 2025 is not kind. It's going to it's going to reimagine the United States federal government. And in so doing, I think it's going to reimagine the state and local governments as well. So my take on it is this, and I hate this because most of you know, for the first half of my life, at least my voting life, I was a Republican. I was a registered Republican, and I voted for all the Republican, candidates up until 2004. In 2003, I think it was, when the Iraq War began. Maybe it was 2002. I was so against that war and so against all of the government surveillance that the Republicans foisted upon us after 9/11. I worked for the phone company then, and they were making the phone companies open up all their records and even their boxes to surveil ordinary Americans. And I'm against that. Always have been, always will be. I've always been a small c conservative, meaning I don't want the federal government interfering with my fucking life. I want small government, as small as it can be, to get the shit done that we need to get done. I want us to literally defend our borders, which no administration has. Well, I want us to run on balance, a balanced budget, but in no way do I ever advocate for a balanced budget every single year. Some years you run a deficit, and some years you run a surplus, and it balances out over, say, 10 to 25 years. Okay? We as a country haven't done that since I think the 50s, maybe the late 40s. We suck at this budget stuff. But most of all, I don't want the government interfering in my shit. And the government should be the referee for private matters, meaning the courts. Like if we have a dispute, like if I have a dispute with you for over a business deal or whatever, I want to be able to deal with that in the courts. And if it's a federal court, it's a federal court. I want the companies like, the Exxon Mobils of the world, if that's what they're still called, the oil companies, if they have a spill somewhere, I want them to be held accountable for it. And they need to pay every fucking penny of the damage they do, up to and including what I'll say is untangible effects from pollution, shorter lifespans, species dying, oceans being destroyed. They not only have to clean up their shit, they have to clean up their shit. If you know what I mean. The government needs to be there to do that, to enforce that. We need the EPA. And what does Project 2025 do? They pretty much got the EPA. They got the SEC. I hate that Congress people can get insider information in behind closed doors hearings and then go buy or sell stock based upon those findings. That is insider information, and it's fucking legal. I think when you go into Congress, you should have to, or any federal government elected position, or even non-elected position, you should have to, at the very least, have to freeze your assets and not buy or sell any individual securities. Period. Anyway, 2025 sucks. Project 2025. And if you want to read about it, I can give you some resources if you can't find them yourself. But I have the document itself. It's over 900 pages. It's written by all former and potentially future President Trump appointees and government officials. So for him to say he doesn't know anything about it and then in the very next breath say, I know there's a lot of bad stuff in it and I don't agree with it. Well, if you don't know what's in it, how do you know it's bad? Again, he's fucking lying. So anyway, I hope your day goes well. Hope the rest of your weekend goes well. This should be out later today. And we'll see you tomorrow. Maybe.